So this part of the presentation is going to talk a little more about how to achieve implementation. How do we do it through the design manuals? How do we do it through land use? So what if we built Treasure Valley around places, and how would we do that, and how would that work? To paraphrase a quote from Winston Churchill, we shape our public spaces, and thereafter our public spaces shape us, and that's sort of what Katie was talking about, and Chris, and a lot of folks talk about that how we shape our physical environment is going to have a big effect on us and our shapes. And I think Katie was talking about, your zip code is more important than actually some of the other stuff that you can do. And a lot of that, I think, is on the shape of the built form. PPS, the Project for Public Spaces, and our concept of placemaking was founded on the writings and the work of an individual by the name of Holly White. And this was his observation. It's hard to create a space that will not attract people, but it was remarkable how often we do it. And I think that it has a lot to do with this silo thinking. When you see designs like that, which is one of the public buildings in Boston, it was designed in a silo. It was designed strictly for the function of the office, and nobody ever thought about how this was going to contribute or not contribute to the community. And it's the little things that help make our places great, and we have to think about that when we design. And that's what I meant before when I was talking about Complete Streets, that it's great, it's a fantastic program, but the engineering and the transportation can't alone create these great places. We have to go beyond it. And I think this is an important principle. I've thought about this a lot over time. Do you somehow feel comfortable when there's a lot of people around, even if it's an ordinary place? And so we have to start thinking about how do we attract people to our public places, and in particular streets, which is an important part of our public spaces. So one of our mottos at the Project for Public Spaces is, if you plan for cars and traffic, that's what you're going to get. And we see this evidence all around the country, in fact, all around the world. But if you plan for people, you're going to get people. So we have to start planning for people. These are the topics that I'm going to touch on briefly here. Street design, land use, a little bit of learning how to work with engineers, but also for how engineers could work with the community. How do we partner? It's very important. Repeat the concept that I talked about earlier today and then last night, the concept of upside-down planning. Set the vision for what you want your valley to be, your community, and then take all of our stuff, not just, this talks about transportation, but it's also the siting of your schools, it's the funding for everything that you do in your community. All should be about how do we contribute to that vision. Because, it's the 21st century and we're all struggling for funding, and we all know that there's not much taste in the public for more taxes. So the era of single-purpose funding has got to be over. We can't simply put hundreds of millions of dollars into our roads. And in New Jersey, at one point, we were putting a couple $1 billion a year into schools. And then other folks were putting money into stormwater management, and then the health community's putting money into health. That single-purpose investment, it's just not going to work anymore. We have to do this upside-down planning and then get everybody to come in and contribute to its success. And finally, a couple quick slides on how we might use green streets creatively. So, street design. I said before that our manuals set the DNA for our city, and so every place that we go, whether it's a small community or a large community, we really have to get under the hood of that design process and go figure out how it is that our transportation folks are making decisions. And we have to change the performance measures. We have to find the flexibility in the design manuals. And there are a number of manuals out there now, both at the state level and the city level, that do that. I'm just going to mention them, and you can go look these up later. But they're critical to accomplishing this goal. And if you notice, the key to all of them is that on the one axis, you still have the traditional AASHTO Transportation Green Book focus, which is what's the role of the road in the state highway system, because all of us still believe that that's important. We don't want to make every street in the country a 20-mile-an-hour walkable street, because then we wouldn't be able to get around. So the role of the street in the system is important, but also the context that it passes through. The road should look different in a section of rural Idaho, 50 miles between villages, than it should in downtown Boise, than it should in one of the villages along that roadway. So all of these manuals follow that principle. One of them is the ITE, Context Sensitive Solutions Manual. You had a couple folks here from ITE and ITD before, and they produced a wonderful manual, and you can find that online very easily just by typing in the ITE context-sensitive solutions for urban thoroughfares. So that's the practice. That's not just hippies or community or tree huggers pushing this. This is a practice of the actual practicing engineers that got together and created that guidebook. The one on the right is from the Indianapolis MPO, and they have a marvelous product that goes in and talks about creating place and creating vibrant communities and the whole mixture of streets. And that one talks about much more about land use than the ITE one does. And then the one that I was part of when I was at New Jersey DOT, we partnered with the Pennsylvania DOT and came up with a guidebook that encourages our engineers to move towards more community-friendly design. And a marvelous resource that's going to be available to all the metropolitan areas around the country in July is something called the Model Design Manual for Living Streets. This is being funded by the CDC via the Los Angeles County Health Department. We put together a manual initially for the city of Los Angeles, the county of Los Angeles, which includes 80 some odd communities of all different sizes and shapes. But it was written and intended to be modular so that when it's done, it's going to be posted on websites. They're going to get a lot of organizations like AARP and the CDC, the American Public Health Association, to market it and send it out there. And permission is going to be given to anybody in the country to take it and just do find and replace and go in there and put your own city's name in there or community's name in there. And then some of the stuff is going to apply only to a big city, so you can sort of edit those chapters out. So this will be coming available in July, and I think it's just a major, fabulous resource.